language where I covered the very basics to start with the MS Mastering in MS Excel series, where we had discussed the various type of windows the MS application have, and we had covered a very important concept of addressing mode. So if you want to watch the video in Hindi, you can find the link in the I button, or I can give the link in the description of this video. You can go and watch in Hindi. This video would be on the same topic, but I would be covering it into for my audience who like to watch videos using English language. So let's move on, viewers. So currently we are on our home page. Here you can see the vision, mission, and a goal statement of ThinkEduEra. Let's move on. Now we are on the same screen, which is my favorite, the skill framework. Anytime viewers you would like to recap the framework which we will be following in all our learning, and we call it a skill framework. And if you remember the component of framework are the concept talk, tech talk, and then finally combining these two aspect, we drive the third thing, which is the walkthrough or the demonstration. And finally we discuss what is the outcome of that, the value or the benefit which you can drive from each learning in terms of a skill. Let's move on, viewers. So today I am going to discuss you with you. So let me first of all, set the context. I would be covering two things today. One is very basic things about the MS Excel, where we would be talking about little bit about the MS Excel application, and then secondly I would be covering the very important concept of MS application, which is the fundamental and the base of everything which we do using MS Excel, and that is known as the addressing modes. Okay, viewers, so let's start with it. So once you open the MS Excel application, you can find it using the run command in the your Windows, or if you are using Mac. I am not a Mac user, so I can tell you from a Windows perspective. You can just click on run, and then you can find the Excel. You can write the Excel there, or you can just simply type the MS Office. You can see the Excel application, and when you click open, and this is how you see the application window of an MS Excel. So we are just covering it from a conceptual perspective first, and then in the second part I would be doing the demo, and then we will learn about it. Don't worry about it. So if you look at my screen, viewers, you see here one is named as application windows. Normally each application, there are two types of windows which each application normally have. Similarly, Excel also have the two kind of application window, two kind of windows. One is known as an application window, as the name suggests, and you can see on my screen. I am hovering over my cursor here. This all upper part of it, and then left side, right side, and the lower side of this window is known as an application window. And each application window is nothing but a medium to communicate with that application, so that the application may receive certain commands and understand what user is trying to do. It is basically a way to interact with the application, and you can manage your document window by the help of using the application window. So in the application window, if you see the components here, you see on the right top corner, you see the minimize button here, the adjusting buttons here. You can see the closing buttons here as a crossbar here. If you want to close the application, you can close it here. You want to maximize it, you can click on the maximize button, and if you want to minimize it, it will be minimized on your taskbar. Sorry, viewers. Okay, now let's go and start watching this. So here you see the various menus like file, home, and I when I took this screenshot, I had selected the home intentionally, so that this is very basic menu of MS Office application, but we are not going to use and discuss everything in detail here, but just what you need to understand is each application window have certain menus, and under each menu there are palettes. Palettes are nothing but a bunch of commands put together under that particular menu. Like for home, there are some basic commands which is plugged in and grouped here in this home menu, and there are like insert. In insert menu, you will find various commands related to insert, where you can insert certain things into your application using this window. So menus are nothing but a group of commands put together in a separate section, so that user do not have to remember them, they can use it, and they are very logically assigned to a particular menu. Under each menu you see this, all the commands in the recent applications. Since we know that the visual memories are the strongest memories, viewers, and this is a very famous dialogue of a movie, Drishyam, and the MS Office also utilized that concept here. So earlier menu system was like list down, that is also there at present, but under each menu they have visualized, they have created the visualization and grouped all the command in form of visualization. Here, as you see here, that is known as a palette. So under each menu there is a palette, and palette is nothing but a combination or a group of various commands which user can apply on their document window, on their various data sets, or the action they want to perform using the commands. So just understand this, the application window is an interactive window which helps and provides a group of commands in terms of conceptually we know them as a menu systems, and under each menu there are group of commands which users can use. The another interesting thing to know about the Excel application, in the right side and the lower side you see this vertical and horizontal bar. You can move through the document window using these bars or the rulers, and these bars and rulers are part of application window, not the the document window. Okay, so each file in a Excel application is known as a workbook. So workbook is a smallest unit of a Excel application. Everything which what you do, the files which you create using MS Excel application is known as a workbook. And normally depending on the version of MS Office application, the Excel application which you are using, the recent one, the extension, and each file in MS Office have a different, each application of MS Office have different the extension of the file. When we say that the file name normally have two sections, one is the pre, another is the post. Pre and post, there is a full stop sign, and the second part of after the which you use after the full stop is known as a extension of that file. And the recent version of the Excel, and there are different kind of files which you create using the Excel. We will discuss in some other videos about it in detail, that what are the different kind of files using the different extension you can create. But and as in general, if you are creating a normal Excel file, it will be extension used is XLSX. Viewers, okay, now let's move on. So we just understood that under application, we Excel application, we can create a workbook. And when we deeply look at the workbook, and now let's come to the another part, which is the second part of the windows, which we known as a document window or a spread, or in terms of Excel we know it as a spreadsheet or a grid. So when you open a workbook, you see there are certain sheets. Sheets is nothing but a kind of, if I give you an example of a book, so book is a combination of pages, right? So consider that your workbook is a book of Excel application, and when you open a book, there are various pages in a book. So this worksheet is nothing but a pages in the workbook. And there, as you see that, as you know that in a workbook there can be multiple pages. So here also in the workbook, MS Office workbook I am talking about, is there are different pages, and each page is known as a worksheet or a sheet simply. So and there are certain operations which a user can do on these seat names. Like by default seat name starts with seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, and so on. But user are have the facility to change those names. Like like here in this example, I change this name of the worksheet, like worksheet intro, then addressing, then series, and all. You can simply double click on this. User can simply double click on the worksheet name and they can type the name of it, or you can just simply right click and change the name. Similarly, you can just right click and you click on the tab color, you can change the seat name. So with the seat names, you can change the seat names, you can change their colors, you can arrange them, you can shift their positions from left to right, right to left, and all. Let's say here, if you want this series name seat at first, you can just simply drag and drop it here. So all those facilities are available there in the worksheet. So these are the simple actions a user can perform using this the part of the document window, the seat name with the seat names. Now let's come to little deeper on it. So each worksheet have a is a combination of grid, and grid is nothing but a combination, or is the intersection of columns and rows. So we all know that vertically, if something is aligned, then they are or normally known as a columns, and horizontal lines which you see here is known as a row. So each column have a header in Excel, and that is how they create this grid. So vertically, you see the names here like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So these vertical names, you mentioned the as MS Office uses the alphabets to name the column headers, and that those alphabets starts with the A to B, C, D, E, F, G till Z, and then once it reaches to 26 letter of ABCDs Z, it is again starts counting from A B, and then AZ, then AB to is BZ, like that, and so on. And these headers, we know them as a column header. Similarly, each row have a row number here, like you see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there are more than 60 lakhs of rows in a single worksheet, guys, and that's the beauty of Excel. It's a huge sheet. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now let's move on. So we understood that the concept in each document window or a spreadsheet, we have a column headers. Similarly, we have row numbers. So vertically there are columns, horizontally there are rows, and each row and a column intersect with each other, and the smallest unit of that intersection is known as a cell, as we highlighted here. Like this one, the column D, row number 5, this cell is D5. Similarly, I had highlighted another cell here like this, the column P, and row number 12. This cell is highlighted here, and the intersection of a row of a column header and a row number is known as a cell. And understand, viewers, that cell is a smallest unit of a worksheet, and worksheet is the smallest unit of a workbook, and workbook is nothing but a file which is getting created by MS Excel applications, in which you create some information, you manage some information, and you store this information in these workbooks for future use. So this is all overall a picture about the MS Excel and the learning and getting familiar with the MS Excel application. Now let's come back to the cell part of it. Cell is the smallest unit of a worksheet, and now we are coming to the very important concept of addressing. So each cell, so intersection of columns and row, we understood, is a cell, and cell is a smallest unit. And the beauty of Excel application is that each cell have a unique address of it, and that's where those column header and the row number which we defined to create this grids is come together and help to use this concept which we known as a addressing. Now let's understand it better. So this cell which I have highlighted here is a intersection of column P and row number 12, and that's where it gets identified as a cell which is named as P12. So the address of this cell would be P12. So there are two things a cell may contain. One is a cell may have a direct value, like in a cell you can type any value, and that value may be a different kind of thing. Like maybe it can be a text, it can be a number, it can be a date, or anything else. It can be in a different formats and also on. We all learn about it. Don't worry about that. Just understand that each as of now, just understand these two things. Each cell may have two different things. One is direct value to it, and it can be of any type, like maybe number, text, date, or anything else. And the second thing, in a cell, it may contain a formula. Now, formula or a function. So we will understand the difference of formula and function. But understand this: the second thing which we are talking about, that a cell may contain, is a formula or a function. And formula or function is nothing, it is not a direct value, but used to calculate the value in that particular cell. And that formula or a function is used in that cell is itself use the address of different cell or a range. I will come to that, don't worry about that. Just understand that a cell may contain a formula or a function which is dependent, and that formula or a function is nothing but the address of another cell or a range of cells, or a workbook even, or a worksheet, uh, or worksheet of from other workbook, or entirely different workbook. So that address which is used in a formula or a function. So these two things, one is direct value, another is formula and function, and that formula and function uses the addresses of other cells, other range, other workbooks. So viewers, this addressing concepts, remember this, the addressing concept is used when a user wants to use a formula or a function in the particular cell. And the smallest unit of the workbook is a cell. So user will put a formula or a function in a single cell at a time, and they can use in a multiple sheets or a cells as well. And how do we do that? We will learn all those techniques, don't worry about that. So that is bringing me to the second part of our video, is the second topic which we were about to discuss about the addressing modes. Now, if a user wants to use the addresses in a function or a formula, those addresses may be used in a three form, in a three types. uh, or you can simply say that in Excel there are three kind of addressing modes. Now let's move on to this very interesting concept, addressing. Oh, now you can see, the viewers, the about detailing about the addressings. I would not read out the theories for you. It's all for you, but I will talk through about it. So viewers, in Excel, when you go and use the addressing, before using a formula or a function in a worksheet, in or in a cell, I would say, when you apply that formula or function, before that, any user, any viewer need to know that how you can apply that formula or a function in a cell using the Excel application. And there are basically three ways to do it, and that's why they're known as a addressing modes. Modes means a way, or a way to do, basically. So that's why we know them as a addressing mode. So if I would like to name them, the one is the relative addressing, another one is the absolute or a fixed addressing, and third one, which is a hybrid model of using these two type of addressing combining together. There is a third mode which is known as a mixed addressing or a hybrid addressing, you can say it, user. Okay, now let's talk about these three addressing modes. Don't worry about that. We are just covering it from a conceptual perspective here. This video will be little longer. but I would like viewers to be passionate and to hear me out, and try to understand this clearly, because once you are familiar with the addressing modes and you are, you know, comfortable and you understood the concept of addressing modes, you would be in a position to use the MS Excel in a much, much better way. And I know that, I have, 15 years of experience using, and I have been utilizing the MS Excel in most of my roles, and I met different kind of people. So I'm just giving you some theories to it, because people do not know these concepts. They know the Excel, and they, by the time or the experience they started using the Excel, and they are using it with a bit of struggle, because they actually don't know these concepts, which forms the base of using the application. So viewers, please pay attention, and let's just talk about these three magical way of doing formulas and a function in Excel. So very first way is a relative addressing. So viewers, just recap that picture which I just shown you in previous screen, and I am not going back to that, but just visualize, try to visualize that. We discussed about the cell, right? And cell, every cell is known or identified by its unique address, and that unique address is formed by identify that vertical position of that column and an horizontal position of that row number, and that forms the address of, like we discussed, that cell which is P12, right? So when you use an Excel formula or a function, and when you drag that formula or a function, and that's the beauty of Excel, its references or the addresses which is you used, which a user have applied or used in a particular formula or a function, they tends to move accordingly. Like if you applied a formula in a cell P12, and you have used, let's say, A1 to A10, you had used as a reference the sum. You used a formula sum equals to sum, because in Excel, whatever you put, whatever formula or a function you want to put in an Excel, apart from the values, you need to start it with equal to, plus, or a minus sign, and then you type the name of the function. And if you want to build a mathematical formula, you can build any mathematical formula, use the mathematical operators by using the concept of code mask. So we are not going in those details, we all know that. Okay, so let's say I was giving you an example of, if a user is using a formula in a cell which is P12, and just understand it conceptually, P12, and he's just writing equal to sum is a function, bracket open, and then he's writing the reference. He's giving the reference or address of a cell range which is from A1 to A10, then he's bracket open, then he's writing A1 range, and for range we use the colon sign, and we'll come to know about that. We will do it practically. And the colon, and then is right, the person is writing that A1 range A10, and then bracket close, and then put enter. So when the user do it, the beauty of Excel is that a formula or a function is dependent on the address of some other range or a cell, and it calculates and return the value of that calculation which is done by that formula or function in that particular cell. So a cell itself have a value or a formula in it, and that cell also itself have its own address, and that is a beauty of Excel addressing. So very first kind of, so when user put that formula and press enter, and he tries to drag that formula, and how do we do that? We will learn about it, but just understand that when you drag a formula in any direction, because Excel is a grid, and you can drag the formula. Once you put a formula, you don't have to retype it every time. You can just drag it down in every direction. There are four directions: left, right, and up and down. So wherever you move that formula, that references or the addresses which you use, like from A1 to A10, and you use that formula in P12, and if you move that formula from P12 to P13, the references which you had given in that cell, if it is not fixed, and we'll know about that, if it is not fixed and you move that formula down, the range of that formula will automatically move or tends to move to the next level, like in the if you move that formula from P12 to P13, the range in that cell, that formula will automatically change, and it will move from A2 to A11. And that's the beauty of Excel. And if that kind of addressing, so by default, this is the default addressing mode in Excel. If you don't put any extra effort or don't use apply any other technique, which is a dollar technique, we will come to know about that, and we will discuss about it in a while. So the very first addressing mode is a relative addressing mode in Excel. And when you just understand users or the viewers, when a user in Excel use a formula or a function and move that formula or function in any of the directions, the references or the addresses given in that formula tends to move accordingly in those directions. And that kind of addressing is a default addressing and is known as a relative addressing in Excel. Why we call it, to just to remember it, that relative means it is tend to change relatively when you move a formula or a function in any direction. That is why it is known as a relative addressing. Now, this is a most common type of addressing. Let's move on to another concept, the second concept, the absolute addressing. Users, there are scenarios that sometimes the users use a reference in a formula or a function, and he or she wants to move, or that particular user wants to move that formula in a different range or different cell. I'm using this different concept, and we'll come to know about that. But whenever a user wants to move that formula and want that those relatively that formula should not move, those references should not automatically move, and user can fix them, user can absolute them in that particular position, even if the formula is moved in any of the direction, the addresses in those formulas or function doesn't change. And that kind of mode or addressing type is known as an absolute addressing or a fixed address. That's why we call it an absolute. Absolute means fixed, which do not change, which do not move. And that's why second kind of addressing is known as a absolute addressing. And third kind is easy to understand. Once you understand the relative motion of the formula or function, when you move it, its references also changes, its addresses also changes accordingly. And the another way is when user can fix it. It means that user moving the formula into different directions, but those addresses or the references used in that formula is not moving, is the absolute type of it. But when you use a combination of these two, that there are situation or the scenarios, and we will discuss all those examples, what are those scenarios and examples with the data sets, that there are situations when user wants to move some part of the formula or function, they want to keep it as relative, and some of the part of the formula or function they want to make it absolute, which should not change. If user use or apply this kind of addressing in Excel, the third mode come into picture, which is known as a mixed addressing. Viewers, if your concept of addressing is concrete, solid, and you understood this concept very well, then, and we will know that how do we apply it in practical. But when you know that there are three addressing modes which is used in each every formula and function in Excel, then and only you will be able to utilize the Excel to the fullest of its capabilities. Now, users, it's the time to move on to our second section, where we will be discussing the techniques to apply. How do we apply? We will go through the different windows of Excel, the component of it, to be to just to get it familiar with, and then in the second part we will do uh, the addressing with the examples and various data sets. Let's move on, users. Now, user, let's move on to our second part, which is a tech talk and demonstration part. So I have opened an Excel application, and you can users follow my cursor on the screen. So this is screen where I am moving this cursor at the top is a part of application window of Excel. This vertical bar and the horizontal bar which you see here is known as a ruler or a bar you can use to move into a different section of the workbook. Now if we look at the menus here like home, insert, page layout and all. So what these menus do is basically each menu have some commands visually listed here, and you can click on a different menus and you can go through with all of those commands. You probably user probably might not have to remember all those commands, but if you know it that what for what section of a menu contains what, then you would be more familiar and you can better use the MS Excel application window. The another part of the application window is like the seat names. You see the seats here. Whenever you create or open Excel workbook, you see some seats by default. Let's say I'm just inserting a seat here. You can just click on this plus sign and this seat 2 is created. So by default, seat names like seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, 4, seat 4 and so on. But when you wants to change, user have the facilities, various facilities or the commands available to work on the seat names. Like if I want to change the seat names, I can double click on it. I can change the name of it, like let's say demo. If I want to change the color of the seat, I can just right click and tab color, click on tab color. I can just choose any color and I can change the color of the seat also. I can move the position of the seats also as per my, let's say if I want to make this seat. So okay, this reminds me another thing that if a seat is already existing with that particular name, you can't create the two seats with the same name. You will have to change the name of it. Let's say I change this, since demo name was already existed, one seat with the name of demo already existed, it was not allowing me to create the another seat with the same name, so I just created the name, a demo name too. So there cannot be two seats with the same name, and there is a reason behind it. Okay, so we change the name of the seat, we change the color of the seat, we change the position of the seats. So this is all you can do. And if you don't need any seat, you can just right click or delete seat. So this is how these are the operations you can perform, a user can perform on the seats. Now users, let's go back and understand the concept of workbook. So we already discussed the application window. We discussed about the seat names and what are the operations available. And let's just understand this grid now, which is the part of the document window. So each Excel sheet or a worksheet is a combination of columns which is vertical. The columns are verticals always, and each column is named as a column header, and this starts with the alphabets A and it goes till Z. Once it reaches to Z, the counting starts from, let's say AZ, AB2, then it goes to AZ, or it start from BA to BZ, CA to CZ, and so on. And you don't have to bother and remember it, but you just need to understand when it is reaches Z, it start AA, AB, and when it reaches to AZ, then it start with the second alphabet of our ABCD, which is BA to BZ, and after BZ it starts with CA to CZ and so on. Similarly, what you need to understand from a conceptual perspective and to understand the MS Excel application here guys, that each column is have headers, and these headers is used using the alphabets from our English alphabets, and each row is numbered and start with number 1 as in numeric number, and it start going so on. Okay, so column is headed with the alphabets, row is numbered as numeric number, and that number start from 0 1 2 and so on, and it start increasing the like row number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 and so on. Okay, now each column and each row intersect with each other. Like for this column A and row number 5 is intersecting here, this column E and row number 5 is intersecting here. So if I select this cell is A5, and if I just click this cell is D11. So the intersection, each column and row is intersecting each other, and that intersection is the smallest unit of a worksheet, and that we know it as a cell. And this cell is uniquely identified, and that's the beauty of excel, that each cell in excel is uniquely identified. Like this very first cell is a cell identified with header, the column header and row number. What is the column header of this cell is A, and what is the row number? 1. So this cell is A1, this cell is A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. And if I go to the second column, this is B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. And if I go right, like this is A6, B6, C6, D6, E6. Like this row is not changing, but header is changing. Here, if we go down, the column is not changing, but the address of cell is changing because the row is changing. Like A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. So each cell is uniquely identified. Here, it becomes B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6. I mean, if we are going down, the column is not changing. If we are going right, then row is not changing. Like this here, if I go here, the address, if I call out the address of this cell is A3, this is B3, this is C3, D3, E3. Means 333 is common, but the column names are changing. That's why each cell have a unique address. And that's the beauty of Excel. And this addressing, this brings the concept of addressing here. As in our concept talk, we talked about that each cell in a worksheet is identified as a unique address, and that unique address of that cell. So whatever cell is an active cell. So I can move the cursor in this, the grid or a worksheet anywhere, and this rectangle, one is nothing but a active cell. So wherever I am moving the cursor in Excel, this cursor is shown here in this rectangle form, and this is known as active cell. And the address of this active cell you don't have to remember, but you can just click on anywhere in this cell. Let's say here. So this is, if I look at like this H and 17, but I don't have to calculate this address every time. It is already calculated by Excel, and I can go to the formula bar here and I see the address of this like H17. So if I move the formula up, you see this, the address would be automatically changing in the address bar. So we don't have to calculate. Excel already calculate that where your cell is, with which address of the worksheet your current active cell is. So this one here. So each cell may have, now we understood the cell, and each cell is uniquely identified by a unique address. Now we had discussed that each cell may have two things individually. Each cell have their own address. That's one. The second and third thing is each cell may have its individual value, or it may have a formula. So if, let's say, if I am putting some values here, like I put it 10 here, and I just want to move it one by one. So let me just put some values and drag it here till here. Okay. So I have some put in some values here like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 till 16 here. And then I, did this sum of it here. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so each cell may have two things. One is value. We had discussed about this. If a cell, so this cell, this is D4, we don't have to calculate the address. D4 is available here. The value of this cell is itself available in that cell, and it is also available in the formula bar. But there may be, as we told you, that in a sheet there may be a direct value or a value which is getting calculated by using a formula or function. And to use a formula, okay, users, we were discussing about this. Each cell may have a value. If a cell have a value, then it is directly displayed there in that cell. Also, it is displayed in the formula bar. Now, another way is, if a value is getting calculated in a particular cell using a formula or a function, that cell itself display the value of that calculation. However, the formula bar will give you the formula or a function based on which the calculation is done, and that value is calculated and available in that particular cell. So that's the difference. So if a cell is contains value, it will be displayed in a function bar also, and also it will be displayed in that cell. But if a formula, if a cell contains some value which is a result of a function using of a function and a or a formula, that cell itself will display the value of that calculation, but the function bar will actually display the formula behind that, so that the user know that that cell have a direct value, or it has a formula or function which value is available in that cell. However, formula bar can show you that formula. Okay, so I hope this concept is clear till now. Now let's move on to another thing which we had discussed about. Now let's discuss about this. Okay, viewers, I was talking about the active cell. So let's say if I want to put some value in this cell, I can make this cell active, and then I can type anything. Let's say demonstration, and let's say I am here in this cell currently here, and I want to type something here, so I can just make this cell active, and then I can say, let's say example. And if I want to put some value behind, under this, then I can come here and scenario. Okay, this is how you can make the cell active and put the entries there. Now uh, this is clear about the cells, making the active cells, and doing some entries there. Now let's move the concept which we were about to discuss today, the addressing modes. So you just let's just understand this table vendors. I put in some formulas here. Let me just remove those formulas, so I will just do it in front of you. Okay, so understand these two columns first. I have listed down some lenders, and then loan amount I gave to them. And in the third column, there are interest amount which I will charge them. And here I want to calculate the interest amount for that particular year. We are doing this simple calculation. So I am just putting a formula equal to B4 into C4. And see guys, viewers, I am not using the amount, rather I am using this the cell references there. So this calculation of what how can I would have done this, like writing this 15,000 into this 2500. So I will I will get that same result, right? And here what I can do is I can just write down, do the sum for 15,000 plus which we do is 37 the 50, which we do in a simply calculator. But there is a difference in a calculator and in a laptop, so or the excel application. So it is more than the calculator. So the loan amount is 15,000 for Naresh, and the interest rate is 2500. So first of all, I wanted to calculate the interest amount. So what I did is equal to B4 into C4. So what excel will do is it will go to the B4 and check the for value. So B4 is a reference, so and excel understand these references. That's why we use that. A cell may have a direct value to it, or it may have a formula or a function which will calculate the value for you, and it will display the result. So here I am using this formula equal to B4. It means excel will go and B4 and look for the values there, and it will replace this value with the references, and then go to C4 and check the values 25%. So we'll do the same calculation. We'll replace this B4 into 15,000 and then C4 into 2500, and they do the calculation and return the value here. But that cell will still have the formula, and it will be displayed in the formula bar. Similarly here, I just wanted to calculate that what will the total amount rest will return to me. He will return me, go to B4 plus go to D4, because the interest calculation is already done here. So what amount total in total Naresh will return? Naresh have taken a 15,000 loan at the rate of 2500, and at the end of the year the total interest amount he will have to pay is 3750 rupees, and the total amount he will pay is the principal amount plus the interest amount, which I did the calculation here. Now that's the beauty of excel, that once you put a formula there in excel, so you have given the loan to so many people, not only the Naresh, and you want to calculate the same, do the same calculation for rest of your population. So yeah, like unlike in calculator, what you will do in calculator, you will just do the same calculation for second person, third person, fourth person, but not in excel. In excel you just made a formula for these one row, and you can just simply drag this formula. And if you remember our concept when we were discussing about the addressing mode, when you move a formula or a function in a cell range, it will relatively change. Means this line item was doing the calculation for this row, but this line item will do the calculation for this. this row item will do the calculation for this, and that's the beauty of excel. And this is what the relative addressing is. Means in this one, the excel did the calculation for b4 c4. Next one, when you drag it down, the reference already changed. It becomes b4 to b5, c4 to c5, and so on. And that's why you don't have to calculate the formula for everything. You just calculated it for the first record, and you then simply dragged it down. And when you dragged it down, the reference is automatically getting changed and calculating it for the next record. And that's what the relative addressing is, because the addressing is automatically changing b4 to c b4 c4 to b5 c5, then b6 c6. We did not change it, right? We simply drag it. Let's drag it once more. And just remember, this calculation is the amount 131,250,656,250. It will not change, right? It means we again did this the same thing, but the the result is same. It means the excel is automatically doing it. And the beauty of excel is, when I told you that the formula or a function is a value dependent, it is based on the address of that particular cell, like b4 into c4. And the beauty of it is, if let's say tomorrow Naresh come and say no, increase my loan amount from 15,000 to 20,000, you just go and change this amount here, and this calculation will automatically change, because this was based on the cell reference of this. It was not based on that, okay, 15,000 into 25%. No, it was based on b4 into c4. So that's why the moment you will change any value here in this range, it will automatically picked up and change in this cells here. So the formulas are value independent, and that's what the reference of the meaning of using references. And that's where it makes the excel more and more powerful. I hope you understood the concept of relative addressing. So that's the beauty of excel. You don't have it reduces a lot of effort, and it is doing a automatic things. This is relative addressing. Now that let's in this table, everything is fine for me, but one thing is bothering me. So if you understand this basic table, you see that the lenders who are getting changed, the loan amount is getting changed to each people. That's okay, but the interest rate which I am charging is almost fixed for everyone. If it is fixed for everyone, why I need to repeat it for every record, right? Why can't I do this, that I can simply remove this column from this calculation, and I can just write down this annual interest rate somewhere else at one place, which I exactly did in the second table here. Okay, let's just look at this table. So I have the lender name here, I have the amount here, same amount. Okay, in terms of doing that calculation, and just look at it, I'm just copying this name and the amount here, copy, and just putting it here. Okay, let's do this, and let's just remember this values: 53,000, 53,000, 13250, 132,500, 662500, 662520. Same calculation is coming here. Let's just see what is the difference here. In this table, what I did is I completely remove this column for the calculation, the interest part, because it has a repetitive value. I do not want to do that, because the value is same. If I would have given the interest rate differently, I have charged the interest rate differently for everyone, then probably I would have need this column. But if it is standard and the same value is using here, why I am repeating these values? So what I did here is I kept the lender name, I kept the lender amount, but I completely removed that column, and I put it somewhere else differently here. But now in order to do this, now let's understand this calculation. Since I do not have this the interest column against each row here, what I will do is I will have to pick up the amount from here, and I will have to pick up the interest rate from here only, because when I will do the references, okay, let's just do this. uh, this time my references are j6 into uh, this, because K2 and K3, sorry, and K3 have my values for interest. Okay, when I do this, this is giving me the same amount. This formula is giving me also the 5,000. This is also resulting 5,000. So no issue still here. And I for doing this calculation, okay, let's do the total amount also. Total amount will come from my principal amount plus my interest amount. That is also fine. So 5,000, 25,000, 5,000, 25,000 getting calculated here. No issue still here. And when I drag this formula down, it is completely working because the references were there and it simply picked the value and it calculated and gave me the table here. But now here, what I will do here, if I will drag the formula here, what will happen? Let's see. I dragged the formula here. Oh, what happened? It did not give me the correct values. What happened to this? Let's just see. Because our addressing is still relative, it is getting changed here. I mean, the second record for Suresh, it is picking the amount here. That is okay. But when I see this here, it is actually picking the value from rather than K2 to K3. And that's why there is nothing in K2, K3. That's why it is not available to calculate. And there are some values like this because this is picking amount here, amount multiplied by this at this, because this reference is also relative. Now in this scenario, since I removed this column from here and I want to pick up the interest rate from here only, when I am moving my formulas from here, I don't want to move this reference. I was just want Excel to fix it here and to pick the 25% interest rate here. That's where it will make a value error because I don't want to move it. I put it simply here. I don't want in my formula to move this. And for this, the technique which I am going to tell you to use the fixed addressing. So I want to make the K2 fixed. There are two ways to do it. One is you go to in that formula, put F2 and just you put the dollar sign before the column name and the row number. That's how it is fixed. There's nothing to fix here in this because these references are relative. That's okay because this is amount and this is amount and it is available for all. But interest amount was available here only. That's why we had to fix it here. Now let's drag it once again and see what happens. Oh wow, it worked. What happened? It is giving me the same values. The loan amount was same. Our interest amount is getting calculated same in the first table and the second table, and in the total amount is also getting calculated. But what is the difference in these two table is I remove the completely this column from this table and I just put one row here for interest amount. Which table is making sense in this? The second table is making more sense, but we had to use some technique here to fix this. And this addressing which we used here, if I just ignore the first part for a while, this part, the dollar K dollar two, and this the dollar technique we are discussing to use the addressing apart from the relative addressing. Relative addressing is a default addressing in Excel which we used in the first table. We don't have to apply any additional technology. We just had to apply the formula, and it when we dragged it, it worked. But in the mixed addressing or in an absolute addressing, you will have to use this formula or a technique which we discussed. Remember our second tech talk, we will discuss the techniques. So this is what the technique is. If we want to use another kind of addressing in Excel apart from the fixed addressing or apart from the relative addressing, so we can use the dollar technique. And this dollar technique, I told you that how do we apply. We wanted that this amount should change, so this part will remain relative, but this part should not change. This value, interest value, should always be picked up from this cell, and that's why I make it fixed. When I made it fixed, now I will move this formula down. It worked. And let's just see how it worked. It is J6 into K2. When I see the formula in the downward cell, it becomes from J6 to J7. This is relative, but K2 is not changing. Now K2 is not changing because we put the dollar sign there. What is the meaning of putting that dollar sign there is we are saying that fix the column K and fix the row 2. It means wherever we move it this K2 will not change. So we just wanted to move the formula down, so that's why it did not work. So it would have worked like if I would have not fixed the k also, because what I am doing here is I am moving the formula down. If I am moving the formula down any which way, my column K is not changing, right? So if I do not fix column K, even that it will work, but I am fixing the row 2 because my formula is currently in 6, row number 6, and it will go down to 6 to 7, 8, 9, 10, and all. So you just need to ensure while applying this dollar technique to fix your row and column. First of all, you will have to see what you need to fix. In this scenario, we need to fix, not need to fix to k, because I need to move the formula down in k only. So any which way, my column is not changing. If either I fix k also will not make a difference. But I'm just wanted to tell you what is the difference. You need to identify. You need to fix your row here, because any which way you are moving this formula k only. So k is not changing, so you don't have to fix it. But what it is changing here is you are moving the formula into rows. The row number is changing. The row number 5, it is here in the row number 6, you will change it to row number 7, 8, 9, 10, and that is what you do not want to change. So what you are doing is F2, and you are going to, okay, remain it column K because it is not changing, and just fix the 2. Now let's see the difference. Even this will work. Why it is working? Because I'm moving the formula in k only. But if I will move this formula, just for example, to right words, then probably I will have to fix the k2 also. Let's say if I want to calculate the this interest amount and not the total amount for a while, well, let me just create another table just to give you another demo to guys, to make you more understand on this. I'm just making a copy of it, and let's just see here. And I am not calculating the total amount, let's say, for a while. Now I want to move this formula right side, and I just want that, it should pick the interest rate from here and the amount from here, and it should not change. So let's just use it the fixed addressing. So what I'll do is, okay, take the amount from here and into multiply it here. Okay, now let's just fix both. I'm just saying, okay, you can just the technique to apply the technique is, you can just uh, if you have already applied the formula, to change this formula, what you can do is you can just click F2. These are the techniques, and you can just press F4, and you see the moment you press F4, the dollar sign is automatically applied before the row, the column headers and row number. So both are fixed. It means both are fixed. Here also do the same thing, F4 and enter. So now if you will move this formula in any direction, so it will not change. So let's say it is only calculate for 5,000 only, because it is not changing. It's picking the loan amount for Naresh Kumar only, and interest rate is 5,000 only. Now let's move to the right side also. It will not impact, because see, it is calculating 5,000. It is not giving me those kind of errors and everything. So why it is not changing? Whether I am moving the formula to the down or whether I am moving formula to the right, it is picking the value from the same place. It is completely fixed. So this is the fixed. This is called fixed addressing, which we just discussed. So if we want to fix, so this scenario are a little odd, right? Because this is not what I want to do, but I wanted to use the mixed addressing. But I was just telling you from a addressing perspective. In the first table, we understood the relative addressing, where formulas change and it calculated for different people. Now here we wanted to fix something, we wanted to move something. So that's why we use mixed addressing and technique to change the relative addressing, whether we want to change it to fixed or whether we wanted to change it to mixed. We use the dollar technique, and I hope you guys are understood. It's a mixed addressing. Why it is mixed? Because some part of the formula is relative and some is fixed, because I wanted to move it down, and this is called mixed addressing. And if you want to fix it, wherever you move the formula, calculation would remain same, because it is here also it is picking the value from same place, and here also it is picking the value from same place, even if I am moving the formula down, or even if I am moving the formula right. So don't go by the calculation that it is not giving me the correct result. I just wanted to show the fixed addressing mode to you, all of you, so that you understood it correctly. So we understood all three types of addressing. What are the uses of it? If you see this, fixed addressing is not always used, but it is used in some scenarios when we will do the more practical sessions and the data sets in the future. And if you will come to know any scenario which use the fixed addressing, I will tell you. Other than that, normally the relative addressing is much more popular, which is normally used. But in some scenario, like here, mixed addressing we use to save some repetition, to remove some repetition. We use only one single value, and that's why to use the formula for this single value to pick it from there, we had to use the mixed addressing. So all three addressings are cleared to you viewers. So viewers, if you want to watch the same video in Hindi, you can go and see the link in the description or on the I button. You can see the same thing on Hindi. And if you like my videos, please do not forget to like, subscribe and share my channel. And if still you have any questions regarding the Excel basics, the understanding the windows and the component of it, the application window and the document window, the cell worksheet, the cell worksheet, the cell address, the cell references, the value in a cell or a formula or in a function in a cell, and all kind of three of addressing. Any questions related to this, if you have, please do not forget and comment me in the comment section, message me in the comment section, and I will try to respond your queries there. Thank you so much, viewers. Bye bye.